Hi there. Welcome. I'm glad you're with me. Whether you're watching this live with me right now, hello, or watching it as a replay, and a lot of you do access this on the replay, I know. Take a moment when you're there to like the video, share it, drop a comment, subscribe to my channel. It helps to make the videos more visible to people who might be interested, and I really do appreciate that support. Just a quick note that the next go round of Dynamic Iridology Assessment System for Health Professionals will be starting on September 11th. Well, I'll give you a few more details about this as we go. This is a 50-hour, 20-week course taught via webinars. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Make a note of this URL, tinyurl.com/dynamic-iridology. We'll talk about why that's important in a moment. A reminder that this information is meant for your education only. It's not meant to prescribe or diagnose. You are responsible for any results, good or bad, that result from using this information. And we need to start at the very beginning before we actually even learn the three constitutions, which we will be getting into today. We need to understand first what iridology actually is. And as we understand that, it's going to help us to understand how we can integrate iridology into the client practicing work we do, which will then help us to see the value of doing this in practice, right? All right, so what is iridology? Well, iridology is an assessment system. It integrates the iris, the pupil shape and size, the sclera, and our clients' symptoms. So it's a powerful tool for helping us to get pointed in the right direction and to create the right kinds of recommendations. And as we go through what we're going to learn today, I hope you will see how this can benefit you when you are working with clients. When we look at iridology, it will help us to, again, assess our clients' needs, where they're at, where they need to be. We look at the iris itself. This shows us the inherent potentials, what has been passed down through the last 3 to 4 generations. That helps us to see the strengths and weaknesses that our client may be working with. We look at the sclera. This tells us where current hotspots are, where the iris is genetic and does not change much over time. The sclera is very dynamic. We also look at the pupil size and shape. Now we know that the size correlates to the nervous system. The shape correlates largely to spinal alignment. You know that if the spine is subluxed, you are going to have an impingement on a nerve feed that's going to affect an organ or an organ system. And so being able to assess that shape can help us decide, do we need to refer this client out to a professional who can do the structural work, or do we have the skills ourselves to do that? And it helps us to understand why our client has the symptoms they've got. We want to do this because it'll help us to assess our clients more quickly and accurately, which actually means that it leaves us more time in our sessions for developing rapport. It helps us to stop working unpaid overtime developing our client programs. We can get the assessment and the program developed right in that paid client time, rather than spending time outside of our paid hours doing unpaid homework. When we create our programs in our client sessions, it means that we are laser focused. That helps us to not create programs that are so big that it overwhelms our clients. We're able to focus on what the client needs, what are the recommendations they need to start working on now, and that will help us to help our clients have increased client compliance, success, and long-term retention. If we only give them 2 or 3 very specific pieces of homework to do that are very clearly defined, it's more likely they'll follow through than if we give them 10 or 15 specific or vague recommendations, right? Create the programs that your clients can actually stick with and help them build success. Again, iridology, the way I teach it, will help you to create faster and deeper rapport with your clients, and it will help you to see more clients with less energy or time investment, which is great. If you can get your client work done with this one client in 1 hour instead of 3, what are you going to do with those extra 2 hours? See more clients, do something for yourself, focus on your own self-care, right? So it's really helpful. And again, this can increase your income without raising your fees. Maybe you're seeing your clients now in 1 hour and getting everything done in that hour that will take them to their next appointment, and that's freeing up 2 extra hours of time. You could see another client in there and still have an hour left over. So you've effectively doubled your income without raising your fees. My name is Judith Cobb, and I am your instructor today. I've been studying holistic health since 1979, and I've been a practitioner since 1981. I'm the wife of 1, the mom of 7, the grandma of 10. And as we go through today, I'm going to keep an eye on that chat box to see what questions are coming in and to see how I can help you better further your knowledge in our limited time together today. So take a moment and grab that chat box. And I forgot to set that up properly. There we go. Now you can drop comments and questions in there. So that's very cool. You know, when I got into holistic healing way back in 1979, because I had some health problems that the doctors were not able to pinpoint, address, and help me resolve. And that was when I was blessed to begin learning holistic healing. And I've never looked back, never looked back. I just love the work I do. And I love what I know, and I love learning more. As there wasn't a lot of training available when I started 40 years ago, but certainly as the training has come available, I've added to it. And I've studied with lots of different teachers, lots of different theories and paradigms when it comes to holistic health. I've seen a lot of changes, right? In the 1980s, we had the high carb fad. That just made us fat. In the 90s, we saw the candida craze. Everybody had candida, so we all needed to do candida cleanses. We've seen the low fat fad, and we've seen so many fads come and go, and they just weren't about good nutrition or good health, really. I also learned iridology back then, and the style I learned didn't work for me. I did it for about 10 years, and about 5-year mark in, I was getting frustrated. I was taught that the eyes would change color when we changed the diet, that if we did special herbs and protocols, we would change the structure of the iris. And I never did see that. So, and I did tons of cleanses and work on myself and never saw the results that I was hoping to see. In fact, didn't see any results in my eyes. Certainly improved my health and felt great, but didn't see it in my irides. And we didn't do sclerology back then. So I was just about ready to throw in the towel when I was blessed to learn constitutional iridology. Constitutional iridology has helped me to do my assessments more quickly. It has helped me to be far more accurate. It helps me to develop really fast and easy rapport with my clients. When I take their eye photos, and we've done a hi, hello, how are you? What would you like my help with? Take the eye photos and use the eye photos to start guiding my questions. Use the eye photos and whatever I know about my client to ask the right kinds of questions. It helps us get that rapport built very, very quickly. And it eliminates the need for an intake form. I still have them sign a release form, but I never have my clients fill out a questionnaire, which saves everybody time, right? And that's a good thing. I've been an IPA certified iridologist since 1993. And I am one of, I think there's 9 level 3 iridology instructors through IPA. Currently, I was one of the first 3 to certify at the level 3. They just started issuing badges in 2022. So these are our most recent badges that have been issued for keeping the studies up, for doing CEUs, for being actively involved. I've written lots of books over the years. They've all been self-published. And I've taught and designed many classes on herbology, practical uses of herbs, iridology. I was a certified prenatal educator for a while. And now I focus on teaching iridology to health professionals. I'll give you a little more information on that as we go through today. I'm also a holistic nutrition professional associated with these 2 organizations and a professional member of the Alberta Herbalist Association. All right, so let's dive into some things that we need to know about iridology. When we're doing an iris assessment, we do need to find out, what does our client want help with? I refuse to do an assessment where the client says, just tell me what's wrong. That is not how iridology works. We understand a lot about epigenetics now. The eyes show us the genetic structure, but we know that diet and lifestyle and stress levels trigger the epigenetic responses. And so we can't look at an eye and tell people exactly what's wrong. Iridology is not a diagnostic tool. It is not a crystal ball. It is an assessment tool. So we see predispositions in the irides. The sclera shows us a little bit more about where the hot spots are right now. I always want to know a bit about my client. I want to know what surgeries have they had any medical diagnoses, what medications are they taking. I want to know, what is their family situation, what kind of stress are they under. I also want to know if there's a family history of anything. And it's not that I'm going to use that to guide everything I'm doing, but it certainly will influence me, because if there is a family history of things, some epigenetics have been triggered, right? So I need to know how similar is my client's diet and lifestyle to what their parents was and to what their grandparents were, plural, to know how the epigenetics are going to be triggered, because we know that it can take up to 2 generations for epigenetics SNPs to become active, right? Then what we want to do is we want to begin layering up the information, what they want help with, what their symptoms are, what the family history is, with what we see in the eyes. And we want to start combining markings in the eyes, not just looking at standalone marks, because that's not going to be a lot of value, because markings do modify each other, right? So we want to make sure that we are layering up the information and changing the recommendations we want to make based on the new layers of information. So important. All right, you ready to learn? You ready to look at the first constitutional type? Yeah. All right. Love it if you want to type in questions in the chat box as we're going. And yeah, and let's stay engaged here. So lymphatic. Most people would recognize this as being a blue eye. I want to underscore that with lymphatic, that is the key thing we're looking for. We're looking for some blue in the iris, and we're looking for fiber structure. If we see these threads in the eye and we see some blue, it doesn't need to be as blue as this eye, we know we have a lymphatic constitution. So we're not actually even going to worry about mapping. Not at this stage. I don't even teach mapping till about halfway through the course. Understanding constitution and the constitutional subtypes will give you so much information that even if you had to do an iris assessment without pinpointing specific organ areas, you would be highly helpful to the person you were speaking with. We only use the map as a final, as sort of the last part of an actual iris assessment. So that's going to save a lot of time. Again, when we're looking at a lymphatic eye, we're going to see some blue. We might only see little patches of blue poking through the iris. We will always see fiber. We might have other colors in the iris as well. And these other colors add another layer of information. The common kinds of health concerns, and I want you to think about anyone you know who has lymphatic eyes. I want you to think about them and to think, do they have any of the symptoms we are talking about here? All right, so these people tend to be more predisposed to acid imbalances in the tissue. I'm not talking stomach acid and reflux. I'm talking acid at the blood level, okay? They will have a stronger predisposition towards things like asthma, allergies, arthritis, skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis, and kidney issues. So again, I'm not looking at tiny details yet. I'm not looking at where do we have fibers sitting. I'm not looking at fibers that are, or where do we have pigment sitting rather. I'm not looking at fibers and are they skittering across others. I'm not looking for separations in fibers. I'm not looking for closed off areas like this. I'm simply looking at, do we have blue and do we have fiber? And from there, I know this person is going to have that predisposition of running over acid. How do I know if they're running over acid or not? By their symptoms. And how do I figure out why they're running over acid? By their diet and lifestyle. That's why we need the whole picture here. Okay, we don't look at the eye and say, oh, this person is over acid. Maybe this person figured out when they were very young that if they ate a diet that would produce a lot of acid in their body, they had a lot of aches and pains, or their skin problems would flare up. And so they figured out how to reduce the amount of acid their body was generating by controlling the kinds of foods that went in. So when we look at an eye like this and we see that history of, or that potential risk of asthma, allergies, arthritis, skin, or kidney issues, it doesn't mean this person has to have a lung problem. All right. So if I could look at the lung reaction field, it doesn't mean they have to have a lung problem. It means that they are predisposed in that direction. We could do dietary work, we could do emotional work, we could do lifestyle work, and we can back them away from those kinds of issues. We can play with their epigenetics, right? So with this kind of a person, I would look at the lung reaction field. I'd look at the bronchioles. I'd look at indicators that suggest that increased risk of acid. I'd look at the kidneys. I'd look at the lymphatics. I look at the skin zone. I'd look at the stomach zone. Not because I expect to see the stomach is over acid, because if a stomach is over acid, we will not have an over acid problem in the lymph. I'm looking to see with the stomach, are they likely under acid? Does their body want to be under functioning? Because if the stomach is under functioning, that increases the risk of systemic acid. Is this making sense? If this is making sense, let me know in the chat box if this is making sense. So again, with this, we also need to look for suggestions of challenges in the lymphatic system. And there's a couple of different ways that shows up here as well. But we want to then, again, look at the client's symptoms. Are the client's symptoms suggesting this client is running too hot with their acid? And if they are, then we look at the eyes to understand why. Again, is the stomach genetically not as robust, so not able to help us break proteins down, which is going to lead to elevated stomach acid? What is the diet like? Are they eating a lot of foods that would engender elevated acid as well? Okay, and when we see that, we can begin to make recommendations. Here we have another lymphatic eye, quite different from the one we just saw. Do you agree? Quite different. It's not that bright blue. So what we've got here is a lot of this sort of gunmetal gray blue, right? This gray blue. We've got lots of oranges and browns in this eye as well, and yellows. And that's okay. That's okay. We've still got that blue, even though it's a gray blue, and we can still see fiber. So this is still a lymphatic eye. All of these other colors give us more layers of information. And the more layers of information we can see quickly and understand quickly, the faster we get to the root of the problem. So again, these people tend to be a little more predisposed to thyroid issues, right? Because they tend to be so acidic, they burn up their minerals quickly, they burn up all of their minerals quickly to neutralize acids. And that leaves the thyroid begging for manganese and iodine, right? And so we will often see that our lymphatic people will have thyroid imbalances if they've got symptoms, right? If they've got generalized symptoms, and it can even be the skin issues or whatever, that can tie back to the thyroid, parathyroid, when you understand anatomy and physiology. And that's why it's so critical that my students all come to me with an anatomy physiology course under their belt, because we can go so much deeper. We can go way beyond one mark means one problem, because one mark never means just one problem, right? So we do want to ask questions. We want to ask our lymphatic clients questions about family history and personal history about thyroid and parathyroid and bone health, because thyroid parathyroid balance is a huge part of what regulates bone health, correct? So our goal here isn't to use iridology as some sort of a crystal ball. This is not a party game of guess what's wrong with me. This is about understanding the constitution of our client so we can understand where they are less resilient and where they are more resilient. And so that we can guide them, we can give them practical solutions to help them improve their health and take charge of their health. The goal here is to find the root cause so that we can support that root cause and help so many of their symptoms disappear. Right? And we need to teach them that this is a lifestyle that we are teaching them about. We're not teaching them a remedy for a problem. We're teaching them a lifestyle that will help them to maintain and protect their health. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, let me know in the chat box. Again, this is not a carnival game at all, not at all. So when we understand this, I want you to think for a minute about how you would integrate this into your clinical work. Whether you're a nutritionist, a herbalist, maybe you're a functional nutrition practitioner, maybe you are a nurse practitioner, whatever you're doing, how would you work this in? You know, the way I do it again is on that first appointment, my client comes in, I'll ask them what their concerns are. I'll ask them that bit of history, surgeries, family history of things, supplements, medications, medical diagnoses. I will take their iris photos, and those photos, I'll use those same photos for about a year because we won't see much of any change. The iris is genetically set, so we won't see change there. I'm looking more for changes in the sclera over that year because that's where we're going to see the changes. You'll often see that hot spots in the sclera correlate to areas in the iris where there is a predisposition. So we monitor the sclera. And so every time we meet, and typically I like to see my clients once a month for 3 or 4 or 5 appointments, get them really rolling, then see them again 6 or 8 months later, unless they need to come in sooner, right? And help them maintain that program for all of that time. And then after a year, get them back in to reshoot the photos to reassess, is this still working, right? And so that's how I like to use iridology. Then at the 1 year mark, we reshoot. Symptoms should have changed dramatically by then. What are we now seeing that we want to work on, right? This is what one of my clients said. She's a naturopath from Australia. I'd already taken iridology as a part of my studies as a naturopath. However, Judith's course, we've changed the name, it's now Dynamic Iridology Assessment System, surpassed my previous training in structure, content delivery, documentation, and support. Love that. Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. Iridology, without a doubt, has been a huge game changer to my practice. Sharon used to see her client do the photos, and the way she was taught to do iridology previously was to take the photos, spend 2 or 3 hours doing a detailed assessment, create a detailed written program to email back to her client. And what we often find when we do that is clients don't come back for a second appointment. It's not a good business model. They're often overwhelmed and they cherry pick the recommendations they want to use. So better if we do a succinct program, give them a few very specific recommendations while we are with them so we can teach them how to implement this and get them to come back in a month. Do that, like I said, for 3, 4, 5 appointments, then start pushing the appointments further apart. And then we know that at some point in time, that client is going to stop coming in for a length of time. They may not come in for 4 or 5 or 6 years. They're doing well. That's good. When they disappear like that, I know we've done good work, right? And then as they age, as things shift, as they start slipping on their program, they start getting symptoms, then they come back and we rinse and repeat, right? And in the meantime, I do promote specific product lines and I give them links to be able to order their products online. So in the meantime, I'm kind of saying, yeah, they're staying on a program. I don't know what they're ordering, but I know they are ordering. And so that's helpful too, that I know that they're still working with their program. The next constitution is the hematogenic iris. So this is your true brown iris. How do we know it's a true brown iris? Well, we'll have lots of browns and golds. We will see no blue in the iris, and we will see no fiber. There's enough pigment in the iris that it's covering the fiber, it's veiling the fiber. So when you see the word hematogenic, what does that make you think of? Let's have that in the chat box. Let's have that in the chat box. I'll give you one clue. One of the things we think about is liver, but there's a second thing that we think about with our hematogenic people. Yeah, we tend to think about blood, blood, hemoglobin, right? So with our hematogenic people, it's blood and liver are going to be our primary areas of concern. So people with hematogenic irides are inherently predisposed to things like imbalances with their spleen, stomach and digestion, circulation and heart, varicose veins. They tend to run the risk of running a little too alkaline. Now that's a problem because we need the acid levels in order to actually assimilate the minerals. So when they're too alkaline, they don't have the chemical ability to assimilate minerals well. And that becomes a domino effect, because if we don't have enough minerals of the right kinds, right, if we don't have that balance of minerals, the endocrine is going to suffer, and that means metabolism will suffer. Does that make sense? Are we good with this? So again, depending on what symptoms, thanks for that. I appreciate that comment in the chat box. So depending on what symptoms or imbalances your client wants help with, the questions you might ask a hematogenic person could be things like, is there a personal or family history of blood imbalances, blood chemistry imbalances of any sort? What about allergies, right? Liver has a lot to do with allergies. So if liver is a key player for hematogenic, we need to know, what about allergies? What about hormonal issues, right? That can tie back to minerals and endocrine. And it can be hormonal issues of any kind. And it can tie back to liver as well. What about blood lipids? What is the lipid profile? I like to have my clients bring their tests in, their lab results. I will often see things that the doctors don't want to pay attention to. Right. And I've had a lot of my clients bring in test results, and I'll say, well, what's your doctor say about this one? And they'll say, well, nothing. Oh, well, that's interesting. That's super high or it's super low, and your doctor is ignoring it. All right, we've got work to do, right? We also want to think about weight. Does this person have a weight issue? Again, that can be liver imbalances. Remember, your liver plays a key role in balancing blood sugars and the storage of glycogen and the conversion of excess sugars into fat, right? So you wouldn't necessarily ask all of those questions. You would choose questions that were appropriate to your client and the symptoms they're working with, what they want help with. Do you know someone who has hematogenic eyes? And if you do, can you think of their symptoms and how their symptoms could be liver or blood related? That's how we need to think when we're doing iridology. It's not just about the eye. It's about linking what we see in the eye to what we know and to what we don't know about the person. Now, we've got a lot of other things in this eye, a lot of different shapes and a lot of different bits of texturing, little markings in here. Those, again, that's what we cover in the course, right? We get into that detail of those markings and how they interact with this hematogenic eye and with other things we see. This is another one of my students, Michelle Davies. She came to me very well trained. She had already studied with David Pesic and had his levels 1, 2, and 3. She'd done iridology in professional practice with Darko Purse. And then she said this is the most amazing iridology course I've taken. Judith's course is top on my list. Judith's iridology course is very complete, as it contains the most accurate iridology, including sclerology, and most importantly, how to put it all together and make a proper assessment. I feel very confident now in my nutritional practice. Biliary eye. So we see no blue, but we do see fibers. Can you see fibers poking through down here? We've got fibers poking through down here. And so with this, so remember, lymphatic is blue with fibers. Hematogenic is no blue, no fibers. In the middle, we've got no blue and yes, fibers. Okay. We might have some gold in here. We might have some orange. We often have darker color around the center of the eye. Okay. So with this, questions we need to be concerned about. We want to be thinking about digestion, including everything to do with the stomach itself. We need to be thinking about liver and some of, or well, all of the various liver functions. Liver does over 500 different jobs. We need to think about gallbladder, and we need to think about pancreas, right? Those are the things that we need to be thinking about. So I'm curious about this. What has been your biggest takeaway so far? What has been your biggest takeaway so far? So as we see this again, we're going to be asking, how stable is your energy through the day? Are you craving carbohydrates? How's your liver function? And you probably know a lot of different symptoms that go with liver. And those are the directions we want to go if they're appropriate with the client's symptoms. So important. So important. All right. So this is another student, Karen. She is a certified natural health practitioner, professional, CNHP. She specializes in gut health. She studied with me about 6 years ago now. She said, I just returned from a regenerative detox course where iridology is implemented. I spread the word about what a wonderful teacher you are. Most people I talked with did not have anywhere near the same experience with their iridology education. They had no support, unanswered questions, and a lot of confusion. Mostly they finished their classes not knowing how to implement what they had learned. I feel so absolutely blessed to have been taught by you. I feel totally supported even still as I have graduated nearly 6 years ago now. I don't think there's anyone out there practicing, educating, and teaching iridology like you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm eternally grateful for your never-ending patience. And then I asked her, how has it helped you? What has it done for you? She said, it's helped me to understand the relationships between different organs and organ systems more in depth. Iridology also gives me an advantage of seeing the potential for different genetic traits and qualities that may be underlying. By observing the constitution, for example, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to applications of healing methods. Therefore, it's helped me to expand my knowledge and increased efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. So good, so good. So again, iridology, the way I teach it, I'm going to be upfront, most teachers don't teach it the way I teach it. They teach markings. I've had students come to me who have done classes elsewhere, and they came to me because they did not learn how to use iridology. They learned how to find markings, but they didn't learn the clinical application. And so I teach you in a way that helps you to assess your clients more quickly and accurately, how to stop working unpaid overtime, how to stop overwhelming your clients, how to create program clients that will increase compliance, success, and long-term retention. Isn't that why we're doing this? To help our clients get results? I mean, really, that's what you want, because the better results you get for your clients, actually, the more they'll advertise for you, the more people they will refer into you. And that's what you want to have happen. Helps you create faster and deeper rapport with your clients, helps you see more clients with less energy and time invested on your part. And it increases your income without raising your fees, learning. And because doing the dynamic iridology course will help you to learn iridology at a professional level with full support. And so with this, again, I invite you, if you've got that anatomy and physiology under your belt and you want to learn how to do iridology at a really deep level, then let's connect. Use that link, and let me just type this into the chat. Use that link, schedule a time for us to chat. It's not a high pressure sales call, I promise you. It's really assessing, is this the course that's the right fit for you? Enrollment for the September program is open now. I only take 10 students per class because I value having a strong relationship with my students and making sure they're getting the education they signed up for. So with that, my friends, thank you so much for being with me today. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, we'll get this replay out to you and get it posted as quickly as we can. Should be up by this evening. And yeah, thanks again for being with me. Take good care and have a great day. Bye for now.